Hello, and welcome to Why I Love Warhammer, a show where I just ramble on about why I love something in this hobby. This is the fourth episode, and it's going to be about the Adepta Sororitas, which I'm going to be calling the Sisters of Battle from now on, because this is the fifth take I've done of this video, just to pronounce that correctly, and what I think is correctly. Sisters of Battle. Like I say, this faction was actually part of why I wanted to start doing this series, because I don't own any Sisters models, and I thought it's still worth talking about something I really like, even if I don't actually own any models. And for me, the thing I love most about the Sisters range, it's the Immolator model that was badly photoshopped into the thumbnail of this video. And think about this, right, from a hobby perspective, that it's a stained glass window on a tank, which feels like kind of the ultimate painting goal, painting a stained glass window. And if that can be part of your army range, all so much the better. Churches are pretty, and yeah, I just thought it's such a pretty vehicle to try and paint up. If it weren't a troop transport, if it functioned more like a Land Raider than a Rhino in game, I probably would have put down the money and built an army around the Immolators, because I just think they're really amazing. And then, similarly, you got the Castigator, which is, that's kind of pretty as well. Triumph for St. Catherine, that's a painting challenge and a half. And the Exorcist, which is also, that's a really fun looking one to paint. I do love that kind of church aesthetic, and in the ridiculousness of 40k, it's upped even more to be something just really good fun. The other thing I like with them is there's some ancient bit of lore. It might have been retconned out by now, for why the Sisters of Battle exist, and the rule was no man may take up arms for the ecclesiarchy. At which point everyone looked at it and said, well, that says man, didn't say anything about women. Women can take up arms, and so they did. The whole nuns with guns thing isn't just a stereotype, it's kind of the angle they were going for, which was brilliantly fascinating. That scene in The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King? Which king is there saying, no man can kill me? And then Eowyn takes off her helmet and says, I am no man, and stabs him in the face. It's like a whole faction of that loophole. And yes, I'm aware that the mortal form of the Witch King was weakened because Merry had the Barrow dagger, but from a film perspective, it's I am no man, stabs in face, crinkles up, right? But and again, from a lore perspective, I love that notion of that kind of having taken what the Emperor said way too freaking seriously. If you were on this website in kind of the late 2000s, early 2010s, at least for me, the rabbit hole I was in, the weird community I was in that I'm kind of glad to be out of now, but it was a decent community for a while, was the YouTube atheist. These kind of militant atheists talking about why they didn't believe in God, and kind of poning creationists. It was a different time, a weird time. And it's basically a whole faction of those guys, and which is really funny to the point watching. Okay, that's where the analogy ends before anybody gets in the comments. But I love this faction. I love the idea of this faction where it's there is no God, and that is our faith. And in the trailers for 9th edition, they're literally being healed through the power of their faith in the Emperor. It's the faith in atheism that heals them. Rules-wise, they've got miracle dice. That's basically from their faith in the God of unbelief, which is weird to wrap your head around, and it's so much fun just to kind of go down that hole. Also, if you watch the Warhammer Plus shows, Hammer and Bolter and Pariah Nexus, the one they just finished at time of recording, I love how sisters are depicted there, because you kind of got these two very different sides to them. In the Hammer and Bolter episode, you really kind of feel for them, and they're very much the protagonists and the heroes, and they are is in one of the episodes. You kind of feel the fear of these two sisters just trying to go through the rituals because that's what they have to do. As you've got these demons and berserkers at the door bashing down the gate, and then watching one of them becoming a living saint and one of them in absolute awe. That's really fascinating to watch. But then Pariah Nexus, on the other hand, there's Sister of Battle there. And at no point could you claim she's a hero. She's definitely a protagonist, but they're not a good person. And I love that as a thing in fiction, where you've got someone who you can understand where they're coming from, but that doesn't make them a sympathetic character, even if they're the protagonist. And so I couldn't get enough of that character. To be honest, when the Salamander showed up, as much as I love the Salamanders, and they are debatably my favourite loyalist faction, when the Salamanders showed up, I wasn't such a fan of that characterisation. What I loved was this Sister of Battle being just absolutely militant about everything with her guardsman friend. Now, spoiled enough by revealing that a salamander shows up, I'm not going to spoil any more. But suffice it to say, I really loved how kind of her story concluded, and what I view as the emotional climax of that story. But also, just there are other models that just need to be talked about. The Dialogus, the one that looks a bit like the face I make in the thumbnails, with this kind of like face that's just genuinely hilarious to me. I have on my phone zoomed in a picture of that face because it just makes me chuckle. And I'll be scrolling through pictures of old pictures on my phone, looking at cat pictures and whatnot, and I'll see the Dialogus and it just makes me chuckle a little bit. Another one, it's not funny, but it's just awesome to me. It's that Judith, and I'm going to try and pronounce this correctly, Judith Eritwa, or Erita. It's kind of this floating pulpit, like a priest on the move. It's just a really cool aesthetic. But really, I think that's what I love with the Sisters of Battle. I love that aesthetic of them. I love this, they've got the humour with the Dialogus, this beauty that is the Immolate, and then you got the cherubs, those cherubs are whole new levels of disturbing. And I've heard a few different theories as to what they are, but regardless of which version of that I choose to believe, cherubs are disturbing. They're more disturbing than the face of a Chaos Knight in lore-wise, and kind of compare when you got that on one side, in that part of that's Triumph for some Catherine model and a few others, and then contrasted with the Dialogus and contrasted that with the Immolator. It's such a varied faction in terms of tone, which is brilliant to see, and just theme your army based around how you want to be perceived. Now, I like the idea of having a very funny army, so I'd definitely be having as many Dialogus as I could run. But yeah, I just think that's really cool aesthetically. So, okay, given that I don't own any models, I'm going to just rattle off what I'd make my list if I were to put down the money. I'd definitely be having Triumph of some Catherine as my warlord. I'd have St. Celestine because I think that's just a really pretty model. I love the posing of it with those golden wings. I'd run the Judith Erita because I think that's just a really cool looking model. I'd have 3 Dialogus because you can have 3 of them. You can have 3 of the things with that silly face. I love that. 5 Battle Sisters with 5 Battle Sister squads with 5 Immolators, and 3 Exorcists, which at time of recording, that's as many Exorcists as you can run, as many Dialogus as you can run, nearly as many Battle Sisters as you could run, and as many Immolators. But just generally speaking, I just love the notion of this faction, and I love how creative you can get with them. Like, if you want to play Order of our Martyred Lady or Order of the Bloody Rose, you can paint them up in that really cool red and black aesthetic that they have on the website. And if you don't want to paint them up like that, you can just paint them all bright pink and have the order of the Hello Kitty. Or in my case, I'd probably paint them up to be a kind of light blue and call them the order of the Pepper Pringle. Name them after my favourite brand and flavour of crisp. Which is kind of more to the point what you can do with the whole of 40k. If you want a bit of a laugh, Google Lovecrons or Hello Kitty Space Marines to just show the absolute range of the way people can take this hobby. And yeah, for me, I'd be doing that with Sisters. Normally, I try and keep things roughly lore-friendly colours, apart from my Imperial Guard. But yeah, the range of ways you can paint these guys, the Sisters up. You want to paint them bright pink, brilliant. And yeah, I just love that with this hobby. So what I'm going to say is, again, that was the broad brushstrokes of why I love the Sisters of Battle, why I think they're really awesome, and why I'd love to play against them as well, because I just love to see them on the tabletop. So question of the day: is there an army that you keep nearly getting into, or like wish you could get into if only you had a bit more time or a bit more money or something? Please put that in the comments below. Be really appreciated. The general YouTube stuff, like and subscribe. Also, if you want to comment any feedback or anything, I do read every comment, and I've already taken and any feedback I've been given so far of ways to improve, I've been trying to incorporate that into the videos because I do want them to be as good as they can. Links in the description if you wanted to have a look. Yeah, and that was my first foray into why I love something from the Imperium, which now marks 1 Xenos, 2 Chaos, 1 Imperial. So yeah, until next time, bye bye.